Sukuna vs. Mahoraga was generational. This was also the title of my video back when episode 17, Thunderclap Part 2 dropped. And to be honest, I still stand by it. The sheer pedigree of talent that was brought in is out of this world. Industry heavy hitters like Hakuyu Go, Kaito Tomioka, and Shoto Goshizono, as well as immensely talented artists like Vincent Chansard and Sota Shigetsugu came in to help out. This absolutely stacked lineup was given a fraction of the time they deserved, yet they still managed to create one of the best and most ambitious fights of all time. It's chaotic, it's full of energy, and most importantly, it's batshit insane. But for as good as it was, it somehow got even better. Let's talk about it. Before I cover the changes and new scenes, there's a few things I want to clear up. Let's just get the easy ones out of the way. Why wasn't this in the original version/release? Simply put, time constraints. I've talked about this at length before, but for people that don't consume content like this, here's the gist of it as I understand it. Production committees are in charge of picking a studio and giving a time frame to said studio for when the anime needs to be ready by. I have no sympathy for production committees, so I won't pretend to be unbiased here. At the end of the day, anime is a business that brings in billions upon billions of dollars every single year. The more series that are made, the more money there is ready for the taking. Super popular shows like Jujutsu Kaisen make a lot of money, so getting each season or movie out as soon as possible to capitalize off the hype is of utmost importance. Let's just call a spade, it's because of this greed that a lot of anime don't get ample time to realize their full creative potential. The natural follow-up question might be, why not just spend a little more money and hire some top-tier animators? If I gave you 5 seconds to draw, say, Yuji, it'll probably look something like this. If instead I gave that same prompt to Vincent Chansard, it might look something like this. Okay, not quite, but it'll probably be closer to this. It doesn't matter how talented an animator is, if not enough time is given, they'll never be able to create their best work. Budget only matters if you can supplement it with time, and take this teaser trailer for Invincible Season 2. It looks really good, and it's 1 minute and 46 seconds worth of raw animation. How long do you think it took for this short teaser to be made? The answer is 4 months. The most important factor in good animation is almost always time. Let's look at this cut done by Vincent. In the original TV release, it looked a little something like this. But even back then, Vincent posted the full Genga that he did on Twitter. There simply wasn't enough time to incorporate the remainder of the scene, thus leading to this confusing shot of Mahoraga just appearing at a crumbling building. The Blu Ray version makes much more sense, with Sukuna being the one to kick him there. Speaking of Blu Rays, what even is a Blu Ray? Blu Rays are just DVDs but better. They have more storage and offer better quality. Outside of merchandise, which I guess Blu Rays technically are, and streaming views, Blu Rays are where a lot of money is made. As such, the quality of art and animation will tend to be better, and you can have outliers here and there, but the whole point of a Blu-ray is to have the best possible version out there for home viewing. Another question I see is, do Blu-rays always change stuff this drastically? As far as I am aware, this is a very unique situation. If you look at a similar, I use that word very loosely, situation in Dragon Ball Super, you'll see how incredibly poor the drawing and animation was in the TV release. The Blu-ray helped fix it. As you can see, there's stark differences, sure, but they're simple tweaks to make the characters look more on model and the animations to look a little less janky. Looking at other Blu-rays, that seems to be the norm. Legend of Galactic Heroes Blu-ray, for example, put a lot of focus on upping the resolution, but it also had extra redrawn scenes that didn't really match with sort of the lower quality drawings of the original. This would be an example of a Blu-ray fixing the original release, but not fully elevating it like the Dragon Ball Super example. In the case of Jujutsu Kaisen, not only do we have small fixes to character models, entirely new scenes have been added. Like I said a little bit ago, as far as I'm aware, this is completely unprecedented. I rattled off a bunch of names that might not mean anything to you when I was talking about animation quality, and while I don't think you need to know every single person who did every single frame, I do want to personally highlight some of the incredible animators that worked on this fight. Not only will you get to see some of the stuff these people have made, but you also get to really understand just how bad the time constraints really were for this episode, let alone the season as a whole. Exhibit A, the only exhibit. This 1 minute and 20-second sequence is a result of 15 different animators working on it. You heard that right. 15 people came together to finish up this one part of the fight. This isn't even a case of one top dog and 14 assistants. Each and every one of these animators is more than capable of creating their very own cut like they've done many a time before. This is instead a case of 15 super animators given no choice but to scrounge together a short sequence before the Blu-ray is to be released. Take a look at Keiichiro Watanabe. I feel like I don't need to tell you who he is at this point. He did a solid 1 second's worth of animation. Do you really think that's enough time for someone of his caliber to shine through? Or how about So Miyazaki doing barely a second's worth? This isn't a one-time thing either. Many more of the sequences in this episode have way too many people working on, and that's a damn shame because it's not just this episode, it's a lot of the episodes throughout season 2. I won't be rattling off names left and right, so going forward, each cut of animation that I talk about in the differences section will have both the name and ad of the person that worked on it. Now onto the fun part. To avoid going over each and every little change, here's the criteria. No small differences. The lights as Megumi summoning Mahoraga or the slightly different shading on Mahoraga don't really count. No updated character model talk. You'll see a lot of these as we go through, but I don't feel like there's a need to point them all out. Dimming and ghosting. Like all Blu-ray releases, there will be no dimming nor ghosting, so no reason to really bring it up. Pretty easy, let's begin. At 9 minutes, we get some really big model fixes. Okay, I know I literally just said that I won't be talking about updated models, but I mean look at this Mahoraga compared to the Blu-ray one and tell me it's the same guy. At 10 minutes and 8 seconds, Sukuna's mouth is redrawn to look a lot better. Okay, this has got to be a new record. How did I manage to contradict 2 of the 3 points in less than a minute? The mouth animation for Sukuna here is a lot better and probably a lot more on model. The previous mouth was way too small and it hopped all over the place, making no sense visually. This is much more pleasant to look at. At 10:21, the water scene is still weird. Mahoraga is no longer spitting out oil. I don't know why I'm including this here, it's just weird. It's like a change that like I didn't understand the original version and I still don't get what he's doing here, so if anyone can point that out, feel free to leave a comment. Another small change at 10 minutes and 43 seconds, the crane falling. In the original TV release, it was way too quick. Given that it's a PNG, having it fall that quickly looks super uncanny. Having it slow down here looks a lot better. At 11 minutes and 9 seconds, in order to get Sukuna to the train, we have an entirely new scene that makes a lot more sense. That's a common theme of these additions. Sukuna is chasing Mahoraga down before getting launched into the air and then getting smacked by the train. 20 seconds later, the entire scene of Sukuna in the train has been stripped of its line art. Now it's all just one color shapes that I think looks really cool. Also, the way Mahoraga throws the train with Sukuna in it is completely different. I mean, just look at how much happier he looks now that he can grab and throw it with both hands instead of half-heartedly tossing it like in the TV release. At 12 minutes and 10 seconds, Wei Lin Sheng's full missing scene to get Mahoraga into the building is added to the Blu-ray, and it's here where the two versions diverge. From this point on, the TV release is much farther ahead into the fight. This is by far the biggest mismatch of the episode. We go from Sukuna launching his slashes, cutting off Mahoraga's arm, and then straight into Mahoraga landing into a building. There is an entire 1 minute long sequence that's missing here to get us from point A to point B. Since this one is the biggest added scene, I'll cover it in its own section. While the fight is taking place in the Blu-ray, the TV release already has Sukuna and Mahoraga on the ground, with a field of debris raining down as Sukuna bows to the audience. Just look at the discrepancy in time. A lot of this missing time is made up for towards the end, with Yuji staring off into the crater and extra long panning shots throughout. Feels like we're back in Dragon Ball with the way this part of the episode is paced. At 13:26 is where we get Vincent's extra cut that was cut from the original. Mahoraga being knocked into the building is finally explained. After Mahoraga adapted to Sukuna's feints and was able to land a punch, the two find themselves in the subway. Sukuna dominates Mahoraga in the hand-to-hand and is able to kick him into the building. Vincent has a habit of being absolutely insane, so this cut is par for the course. It's incredibly clean, the motions make perfect sense, and the fact that it's a POV shot makes it all the more impressive. The plane sequence is also fully fleshed out. Getting Sukuna and Mahoraga both in the plane makes much more sense. Take a shot every time I say it makes more sense, as we can see them getting in and out. In the TV release, all we see is Sukuna knocking Mahoraga away with the wing of the plane, whereas in the Blu-ray we see Mahoraga grab hold of Sukuna, flinging him into the plane and then leaping up there with him. Sukuna then grabs Mahoraga, throwing him out of the plane, and only then does he use the wing of the plane. I want to highlight a couple of things here because Vincent Chan's art is a god. Check out the smoke effect here when Sukuna uses the plane wing as a baseball bat. Not only that, but this short underwater shot was all done in watercolor. Why did Vincent do it in watercolor? Because he's a monster, go follow him on Twitter. 15 minutes and 9 seconds we get an entirely new scene. And I kind of want to break it down in a little bit more detail because it's got some really cool attention to detail. It starts off with Mahoraga walking towards Sukuna. The upside down shot as the ground explodes underneath them is amazing. The slow camera pan as Mahoraga almost tramples on Sukuna does a good job at selling just how monstrous Mahoraga is. Sukuna slowly turns around and we hard cut to them flying into the air. I imagine there was another shot supposed to be here, but they were just unable to fit it in. As Sukuna lands, he snaps his fingers, dismantling a pillar nearby before grabbing hold of it and throwing it towards Mahoraga. None of it phases him as he retaliates with his own barrage of building blocks that Sukuna effortlessly dismantles through before Mahoraga goes for a punch and everything explodes for some reason. Super short, but super cool. Thank you Bai, Julian, and Go, you guys are beasts. At 16 minutes and 30 seconds, the most divine of domains, Malevolent Shrine, makes its appearance. In the TV release, Sukuna's domain is just a red outline in the air. Initially, I had assumed it was their way of showcasing how it's painted onto the air, but seeing it now makes it clear that they just didn't have the time to color it in, I guess. Also, Mahoraga's liquidation here has a very short shot of Mahoraga getting sliced up that was missing in the original. Additionally, the stunning background animation as Sukuna's domain rips apart the city was missing. This cut was by Kazuyoto Arai and the other by Kaito Tomioka. Mahoraga walking through the domain. Dimming and ghosting. Like all Blu Ray releases, there will be no dimming nor ghosting, so no reason to really bring it up. Yeah, okay, whatever. This shot of Mahoraga walking through Sukuna's domain looks so much better undimmed because we can actually see what the hell is going on. Sukuna's fire arrow remains largely the same. The color of the fire has been changed to match the previous one, and the animation itself feels a lot better now that the missing in-between frames have been added. Great change that makes the fire arrow look even better because of us having more frames to look at it. Mahoraga's struggle to survive in the heat of Sukuna's fire is also much more noticeable. Sukuna's pump fake masterclass. Storyboarded by Weilin Zhang, this entire sequence is unbelievable. Most of my commentary here is fully lifted from Weilin's Twitter, as he's actually released a full storyboard that he sent over to the animators. The level of thought and care that went into the sequence is out of this world, so let's just break it down one by one. After having its body waffled, Mahoraga flies towards Sukuna and instantly regenerates right in front of him. I love this shot of the two staring each other down while flying through the air. As they fly inside the building and find solid footing, the two begin exchanging blows. Mahoraga goes on the offensive, but anytime Sukuna is able to grab hold of its arms, they go flying. Unfazed, Mahoraga continues chasing Sukuna down. They make their way outside the building, and Mahoraga launches itself at Sukuna, anticipating his slashes. Each time Sukuna cuts Mahoraga apart, Mahoraga counters, first launching its lower body to knee kick Sukuna, then its arm, then the rest of his body as Sukuna severs his head. Chasing Sukuna down in the shape of a UFO like a rabid dog from a Miyazaki game, Mahoraga fully heals one more time, trying to use a surprise to land a crushing kick onto Sukuna. He evades the attack with a smile, something that the animators have made sure to keep constant in every single one of his fights so far. With the ground destroyed beneath them, Sukuna lands onto the street and brings with him one of my favorite looking cuts in the show. It's fluid, but more importantly, it's incredibly expressive and creative. The sketchy style that morphs back into normal as Sukuna's 4 eyes light up looks so damn good, and I've watched it so many times while working on this video. Mahoraga tries to block the incoming slash, but the slash doesn't come. Sukuna has tricked Mahoraga, and he smiles deviously as he gently launches a slash for real this time. It rips apart everything, Mahoraga included. This next bit is going to be a bit more complicated. What Sukuna did a second ago was essentially pump faking Mahoraga. Hey, not my words, that's what Weilin wrote on the storyboards. Continuing that trend, Sukuna aims at Mahoraga, but no slashes come. He still tries to parry them, but Sukuna simply smiles and does the same motion from the earlier slash. Once again, Mahoraga goes for the parry, and once again the slash never comes. Sukuna leaps behind him, continuing to throw feints as Mahoraga continues to get fooled. Once Sukuna lands, Mahoraga misses the timing and he gets turned into a pool of blood. After fully regenerating, Sukuna goes on the offensive, mixing in feints with real slashes, completely messing with Mahoraga. The camera locks onto his wheel from a bird's eye view, showing us just how lost and confused he is at this point. Having given up at attempting to actually figure out what's a real attack and what isn't, Mahoraga flails its arms around wildly, hoping to catch some of the slashes. Sukuna simply holds his fingers out, having the time of his life at Mahoraga's expense. I remember people on Twitter laughing at how pathetic he looks here, and it turns out it was fully intentional. The wheel on its head finally spins, and Mahoraga not only adapts to Sukuna's feints, but actually learns to do it as well. He goes for a punch which Sukuna dodges, but Mahoraga was aiming for where Sukuna was going to land and is able to actually connect this time. Sukuna is happy to see Mahoraga's progress, and we finally get to Vincent's cut of Sukuna kicking Mahoraga away. This was probably my favorite additional scene, so thank you everyone that worked on it. And a big shout out to Weilin Zhang for the stellar storyboarding. Sukuna vs. Mahoraga is a fascinating case study. It's the culmination of some of the best people in the industry coming together, and against all odds, creating an incredibly memorable piece of art that I think will be looked at fondly for years to come. This was a one-chapter fight in the manga, yet the staff managed to turn it into an unforgettable experience, so make sure to go check them out. I've tried to compile the Twitter @ of everyone I mentioned here, links in the description. And if you want more from me, I recently released a 1-hour long review of Jujutsu Kaisen's first season. Thank you for watching.